Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammaṃ Sangham Namasami. So I thought today seems you get some regular meditation instructions and from various teachers. But I thought today I would perhaps talk more broadly about cultivating the mind, cultivating attention, cultivating awareness, cultivating the heart. In one's daily life, since imagine for most of the day you're not sitting cross-legged in a quiet hall. Most of the day you're doing things, interacting with people, and having to make decisions about what you do, where you go, and surrounded by sights and sounds, not in a secluded atmosphere. So these secluded atmospheres are precious, but we have to be realistic and recognize that they are a relatively small proportion of our time. And even if we do have those occasions, then it's important to cultivate those occasions, so what we learn in our times of meditation, introspection, we begin to learn that, develop wisdom from that, see what our habitual tendencies are, and then enter our daily life with a little more understanding of what we need to work on in terms of our habitual tendencies. In other words, working on our karma. So karma is both the old karma, which is the habits that we have, mental habits, psychological habits, and how, based upon those, we then keep acting in the same way and keep this whole thing perpetuating. So, and in fact, when we look into the Buddha's teaching, much of that is about cultivation of generosity, morality, gratitude, harmlessness, wise reflection, companionship, proper duties and ways of behavior. In fact, it's slightly incorrect to say the Buddha taught the Dhamma. He taught the Dhamma Vinaya, and Vinaya is the ways of training. And Vinaya, the word means that which leads to the dispelling or the breaking up, the dispelling, breaking up of accumulations of the habitual patterns. And so when you consider the Vinaya, then you may think, oh, this is the monk's training rules. The monk's training rules are Vinaya, and they're all laid down. But the view and the vision of Vinaya, of training oneself, is relevant for all people who are interested in finding a way out of suffering. And it's also in not quite correct to say that the Vinaya for lay people is the 5 precepts. It is, but there's a lot more to it than that. So even with the Bhikkhu training, 227 training rules, there's a lot more to it than that. And in many occasions, most of those training rules don't even have any relevance anymore. They're like, we don't have to deal with issues around travelling on caravans of thieves, or visiting bed chambers of head-anointed kings, or storing ivory needle cases, or things that were obviously big issues in those days that are just no longer necessary. So in our training nowadays, we're always creating new standards based upon the old standards. So we have, in our monasteries, you have computer policies, so people don't spend hours and hours gazing into the internet and surfing all over the cosmos. And we have policies around that. We have policies around maintaining silent times in evenings and mornings. We have these things called the core what, which really the repeated duties. And we have duties which are about what we refrain from, and we have to keep revising those because the world in general is always providing us with more challenges that we have to refrain from. Yeah. And also we have duties that are not about refraining, but actually firmly picking up. So picking up duties to the elders, matter respects, duties to guests who come and visit, duties that one has as a member of the community towards one's teachers and peers and even junior people, nuns, monks, the duties we have towards them. Duty we have towards the lodgings, to keep it clean and tidy and never to consider the lodging as belonging to oneself. So we always cultivate our lodgings in such a way that the idea is they could say, oh, could you please leave, and you could pick up your stuff within half an hour or so and leave, and somebody else could move in. And we do this regularly at our monastery in Sussex, West Sussex. That is, the person gets 6 weeks in one dwelling and then they move. When you do that, eventually you start trimming down how much stuff you have, because you don't want to be carrying tons of stuff on your back every 6 weeks. Eventually you get the message. So sometimes you go into a kuti and it's like nobody's living there. There's just one bowl in the corner and a rope hanging over a pole, and that's it. These people are leaving a very light footprint because that sense of, it's a training. And I think these things build up. If you stay in a place for a long time, gradually give you more books, and then maybe some letter writing equipment, and then maybe somebody gives you an ornament, you put it on a shelf, and somebody gives you this, and you put that there, and you get an extra pair of socks, and you put that there, and then you get, and it gradually builds up. So this principle of moving around and living in community is a very helpful one, because then we just keep reducing what we gather, and then you put it in the community store. And if you need it, you can ask for it, you can get it, and somebody else can share it. It makes you feel very good, because so much of the time, when you look at your possessions, you think, actually, how many of those books am I going to read? I read that one 3 years ago, got 50 books, and, I might be reading one or two. That's it. The rest of them are just occupying space. And so I have this own principle in my own mind. I look at and think, would I sooner have this item, or would I sooner have the space? Yeah. So using that as a training, or you look at something, would I sooner have that there, or would I sooner have the space? Because I can't have both. Space is what I like. And what I do often is put things in a box, put them just out on one corner of the kuti. If I haven't used it within a week, go. This is a good thing to do, just because it keeps reminding you, freshening up, keeping things clean and clear. Mainly because what we find with possessions is that you don't really possess them, they possess you. You have to keep looking after them, and then they break down, you fix it, and then you've got to worry where you do put it, and you keep it clean. And hey, I spent a lot of time looking after this labour-saving gadget. And, you can see this is really quite a problem these days, because, I go somewhere, when I was a boy, we used to just push a button to switch a light on. And now you can't do, you have to dim a switch exactly the right. And it takes sometimes 3 days to find out how to switch the light on or off. Because all these different cool light, warm light, neon, what exactly kind of light. I don't really mind, just as long as I can see, But you get all these various options, which the idea is to make it really comfortable. But actually having to handle all these options is quite uncomfortable. What temperature would you like? I just like to not have to think about it too much. And so with this, you see, you start to look at your duties towards your lodgings and keeping it clean, and then the purpose of it and the usefulness of it. And the more that you cultivate, so we have our physical possessions, our lodgings, our duties to our guests, senior monks, and then a regular puja, which is a recollection of the whole community, living in a global community that goes back through time, so you belong to that, and you kind of think, well, if these are my tribe, my people, these people like Sariputta and the great arahants, they're all part of my family, what would they think if they saw me doing this? Maybe not. So you always keep them in your mind, and when you're walking around where you're going, you're living in the Sangha community, they're walking behind you, and you think, no, I think I'll leave that alone. So these are duties for one's welfare. They're not supposed to be duties that are essentially making you miserable or critical, but reminders, be careful, look after yourself. So keeping these clean and empty of building up accumulations. And you find that that particularly as you train in this way, that you realize actually what I can do is, rather than change the world to make sure it's okay, I'll change my mind to make sure. So if it's too noisy, I'll grow patient. If it's too hot, I'll be patient. If it doesn't arrive on time, I'll be patient. If there's not enough, I'll let go. There, the world is perfect. Then we learn that the perhaps, it's like the most comfortable thing is to learn to flex the mind, make the mind more flexible. This is a feature of monastic training. It's surprising. Sometimes as a layperson one can imagine, if you're a monk or a nun, it must be so wonderful, you just get all this peace and quiet and time to sit on your own in a kuti in the forest, in a hut in the forest, and just go into serenity and tranquility, meditate, So last year I had 5 days in the whole year when I was actually able to stop. You probably got more than that, because some of you were on retreats I was teaching. I was doing the teaching. You were just sitting there. And that's my pleasure, of course, the sense of service. So I don't feel that's a complaint. It's just a statement. Most of my practice is actually quite not busy, but occupied, engaged. Most of my practice is engaged with cultivating. So I cultivate, service. What I do, I cultivate not, I've got to do this, they want me to do this kind of begrudging attitude, but this is my joy, to serve. I'm still alive, I still have faculties, I still have some strength. People wish to have something to offer, let me offer it. So then one cultivates a sense of dana charit, dana mind. How can you, and the biggest kind of dana is dhamma dana. And one feels not so much that, one is so great and enlightened, but it's great. I'm pleased that I have something worthwhile to offer. So rather than seeing even one's understanding as a personal possession, you see, this understanding has arisen in me. My mind has been blessed with this understanding that came from the Buddha and the training. From what teachers have taught me and what the training has done, this understanding has come. It's not mine. Let me offer it. Don't store it up. Let me offer that. And so we live in this way of cultivating a sense of duties and service. duties of giving, how we give, with respect, how we attend to others fully, completely, how we give our time for the welfare of others. And in doing so, we're cultivating a boundless heart, so it's for our own welfare. Yeah? And we are associating with those who can appreciate. Yeah. So, for example, clearly for a bhikkhu such as myself, one is only allowed to teach those who wish to be taught. So you teach on request. So this means you're always teaching people who wish to associate with you. So you see, well, I didn't know these people before, but it looks like they're my family. You know, when you're a Buddhist monk, there are no such thing as strangers. There's just friends you haven't met yet. And then you go somewhere else. Oh, there's some more of them. Oh, I didn't realise. You know, so because these are the people who came to see you, and came with a humble heart, and came with a wish to offer, and came with a wish to learn. These obviously are my Dhamma friends. I didn't realise I had so many. And therefore one is privileged to be able to give and serve. So this also is something to recollect, a sense of community, and one's sense of using the mind to generate a sense of the people one wishes to associate with. Yeah. And it's said in the Mangala Sutta, association with the wise is skillful, and to not associate with the foolish. It doesn't mean one doesn't have compassion for the foolish. It just means people who are unreliable, untrustworthy, not interested in picking up skillful conditions, not interested in respect. They're not able to receive what you have. So for these are people you may see, you may offer, but you don't make them your part of your. You don't associate with such people. You associate with those who are capable of listening, training, serving, being reliable, training themselves. And this means that you're beginning to develop a sense of Kalyanamitta, community, which is one of the basic resources of the Buddhist community. To be a Buddhist is to have Kalyanamitta, who are people on the same wavelength. So we cultivate a sense of community, and when you cultivate that sense of community, then you realize my practice now is supporting, being part of, listening to, attending to, showing respect to members of the community. Those, and the community then naturally forms. Those who are willing to receive and give back in return begins to form. And by and large, this is the fundamental experience of the training that Luang Por Chah set up. Most of the time, Wat Pa Pong, most of the time at Wat Panana Chat, it's community. It's attending to the community. It's cleaning the place. It's looking after the place. It's serving the teachers. It's going on the alms round. It's giving teachings to the lay people. It's chanting blessings. It's not frantic, but it's a steady awareness that wherever you go, you work, you stay within, even if you can't see them, you stay within the invisible community, the people, and you carry them in your mind. You live in this psychological world. And therefore this then benefits, because all the time as you're living in that, as you're moving around with sense doors open, you're living like, how would it be if I'm with the great teachers or the Buddha? Is this a suitable way of behaviour or not? And then generally you get a sense of, I think it's better to be more restrained here. Yeah, and then you're living, and then you might also say, when would they encourage me? Put forth an effort. Offer something, try something, practice with something. When would they say that? And you've got to figure out for yourself. Yeah. So then we're able to bring forth and develop in our daily lives a mode of practice. Generally it's around the two principles: restraint from that which is unskillful or unnecessary or just accumulating, often casually done, a casualness. You don't even realize one's doing it, just casual accumulations of activities or possessions or even, conversations or entertainments. Is this helping anything? Is this useful? Can it be put aside? And then also rising up. The principle, simply speaking, is to thoroughly turn away from what's harmful, and to, having done so, the mind is a bit clearer. We've exercised some authority over our mind. We've begun to acknowledge there are habits that we're all prone to, addictions, phobias, casualness, non-attentiveness, inattention. We're all prone to these, and these are habits you want to acknowledge and just put that flag on it. And then whenever you come to anything of this nature, you pause and remind yourself, wait a minute, this counts. So this is meditation in daily life. And you build, particularly this use of pausing. So the fundamental, before we go anywhere else with the teaching, the Buddha is saying, heedlessness is the path to death. That's a very stark statement, isn't it? Heedfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness is the path to death. Very stark statement. It means if you're not attentive, balanced, reflecting on, giving attention to what you're doing, if you're just gliding along, you glide along to death. That's where it goes. You're like in a boat that's going towards a waterfall. The river's going towards the waterfall. If you just glide along in it, over the edge you go. If one is heedful, one is attentive, one learns how to lift the boat from the stream. Because the act of attention itself lifts the mind from activity. It's like pause, lift. Realize you're not the stream, you're not the flow of sights and sounds, you're not the flow of inclinations, you're not the flow of desires or compulsions, you're not that flow, that's the stream. You're the boat. Yeah. And you may think a boat has to go in a stream, but no, you can lift it. And you can turn it, put it on the island. And this is what the Buddha expressed. There is an island you cannot go beyond. It is the complete end of aging, sickness, death, and suffering. This is why I call it Nibbana. There is an island you cannot go beyond. So you lift your boat and you put it on the island. Slips off again, pick it up, put it on again. Slips off again, you put it on again. Now, so we have to bear in mind that we are born in a stream. It's not that you're so evil. It's just having been born, you're born in the stream of the sense fields. They're flowing, sights and sounds are flowing. Some delightful, some pleasant, some soothing. Say, oh, it's nice. Drift along. And then crash. Hey. There was a shark in the river. You didn't see. There was a rock. There were some rapids. Somebody took me for a canoeing trip a couple of years ago. And this lovely river. You just cruise along in it, and suddenly the river turns. The boat throws you over. Yeah. It wasn't because you did anything wrong, but you didn't notice the current. You didn't look carefully and see the rock underneath the water. And so the river flows along, very calm, peaceful, quite enjoyable, and then suddenly, before you know it, you're out. Yeah. So it's be careful, because we're born in this stream. And the sights and sounds and thoughts and tactiles and fragrances, they're flowing, and by no means are they all painful. Some of them are pleasant, enticing. Some of them, everybody's doing it. So you think, well, everybody's doing it, I'll do it. Yeah, but everybody's going to death too. Everybody's suffering too. That's the bit they don't tell you. Yeah. And so you think, now, so we don't have to go blind to lift out of the sense fields. It's a matter of paying attention. Because the quality of citta is such that it is more like a boat than a river. It can lift from the pull. And whenever you feel yourself getting pulled, that's the most important time to just pause. And you can just pause for like 20 seconds or a minute. Where am I now? Where am I now? Not what should I do, but where am I now? And he maybe say, well, I'm in Singapore, I'm in a restaurant, I'm in the office. No, that's what it looks like. That's what your eyes can see, that's what your thinking mind can tell you. Where do you feel yourself? Where do you feel your presence? Where is your presence now? Where is your presence? You know what presence is? A sense of firmness, presence here, stability. Yeah. It's always here, and it's always been dissipated into the sense fields. So when I say, well, where are you now? It's not really asking for a verbal response, it's just pointing to the quality of the citta, awareness as presence. Presence. We can notice the trembling, or the questioning, or the feelings, or the sensations. They're all moving and changing. And meanwhile, with all that, as one acknowledges that's moving and changing, what is it that acknowledges the moving and changing? The sense of the presence of citta as a simple quality of being. So you lift to that. There's a stillness there, point of stillness. And if you can do this, which I don't think is really too difficult, it may sound difficult when I try to put it in words, but we can pause. Where am I? What's really here? Within this realm of sights and sounds and thoughts and energies and emotions and pushes and pulls and moods and impressions, presence is here. Take your time with that. This is being. Being is always exactly the same. Being doesn't change in time. Being is not the person. Being is not the moods. Being is not the thoughts. Being is not the activities. Being is just being here. And there's a refuge. That's an island in the middle of the stream. That's an island in the middle of the flood. And you can return to that. And then from here, what is useful, what's important, what is going to lead, what is the most skillful thing to do at this particular time. Now, doing is always guesswork. Sometimes, by and large, people like to get the doing of their lives absolutely clear. What I'm doing tomorrow, what I'm doing in March, what I'm doing in April, where I'm going next year, my flight ticket is booked, I've sorted that out, what I'm doing in my work, and how long it will take to get that job finished, and then what I do about my car, what kind of car to get, or how to fix it, how long to get rid of that, or buy one of these. Get the doing, and put more energy into the doing to make it right, and good, and perfect, and happy, and useful, and comfortable, and it doesn't quite work. Something else needs to be done when we've done that. And what we didn't quite work out the way we thought it would do. It didn't work out in terms of our expectations. Something cropped up. The plane got cancelled. It's always happening. The last 4 flights I've been on, 3 of them were delayed. So they say, hurry up, you plan to get to the airport at least an hour ahead of time, maybe 2 hours ahead of time, maybe add an extra half an hour in case there's traffic. So you get to the airport an hour and a half ahead of time, and they're playing, delayed an hour. You sit down, and they say, delayed 2 hours. So this is always happening. You think, all that careful planning to make sure you got there on time. This is always happening, isn't it? Things of this nature. So doing is really a guesswork. We put so much attention into getting it right, and it's still... Once your experience leaves the here and now of your heart, your energies and your attention goes out into a world of many different forces that are occurring, and it's uncertain what's going to happen, how much you're going to be able to get done, what's going to work out. You cannot know. You may get sick, you may have an accident, car may break down, the person next door may have a heart attack, your job might go funny, and so on and so on and so on. And then we try to really get it really worked out with security policies and in case, and to try and get it right. And it doesn't. And so there's we get very busy trying to make things secure as best we can. This is not completely foolish, but just to recognize that doing, you just got to keep attentive and guess and estimate, and that's as good as it's going to be, and prepared to live with the inevitable breakdowns and mistakes. So you develop a lot of patience, and your doing is much more, we'll try. We just kind of see what happens. And this means you're much more attentive to the qualities of how you do things. Because your ability to get the results that you're expecting is, even the most highly professional person still cannot guarantee that. You cannot guarantee what the results will be in that sense. This means your attention in terms of doing is, can I do things with more purity? That's something I could have some say over. I could do my actions with more mindfulness, more composure, more calm, more truthfulness, more honesty, more sensitivity for the welfare of others. I could do my actions feeling more present in my body, being careful about my speech. I could actually act. The quality of how I do things could be improved. This is something I can have some say over. And this is the most important thing, because this is where one accumulates karma. So the karma isn't to be measured in terms of one's job or one's work, but how you do it. And so these are qualities that we take our doing clearly, and we focus on the how we're doing things. Am I acting with a sense of modesty or restraint, care and attention, gentleness and steadiness, composure, respect? Then this is skillful action. So when we pause, we stop, you lift your mind, and then you select, how am I going to behave? This is the most immediate thing. Not whether I get it done, but the quality, the ethical and the meditative quality of what you put into your actions. This means you're diverting bad karma, habitual compulsive actions, and you're re-establishing clear karma, good karma, bright karma. And the results of bright karma, bright actions, are that when you come to the end of your action in a day, you realize, well, that's about all I can do. There's still things that are incomplete, but that's always the way it is. And now it's time to pay my duties to the Buddha, the Sangha, and to this body and mind, to sit quietly and contemplate and meditate. Then the results of having lived with clarity, with composure, with restraint, with care, with kindness and service, you receive the results of those. Your mind is already set into the right way, and then you can calm it down, steady it internally. And so then we cultivate. Then you cultivate many things. First of all, this requirement to pause. We cannot assume constant, sustained mindfulness, clear attention. You have to build in definite pauses in a world that is very much obsessive and compulsive and driven. You're not in a quiet stream at all. You're in a raging flood. So to pause, stop, and you can. And something tells you can't. You don't have time now. It's a great idea, and tomorrow you will. It's a great idea. At the end of the day, you definitely will. And it's a good idea, so the next time you have nothing else to do, you will. The next time. But you won't do it right now, because now that's why you've got to do it right now. And bring those... It can be like that, just that much. So I do this a lot. People don't necessarily notice it because it's often quite small. They just think, "Oh, what's he doing? He seems to be waiting for something, or he's not certain where he's going." I know exactly where I'm going. I'm going back here. And so you come. They say, "What would you like?" Pause. Where would you like to go? Pause. It's small, but it's a constant reset that one begins to cultivate as a habit, as a skillful practice. With the monastic training, one of the qualities, one of the simple things is we come into the room, we have the shrine, we always bow 3 times to the shrine. You leave the room, you bow 3 times. You could visit the teacher, you bow 3 times. You leave the teacher, you bow 3 times. You do a lot of bowing. You think, this is getting a bit much, isn't it? Is it so necessary? All this up and down. You think, well, depends, Mostly it's there to just say, stop. Bow. Gives you that time. Where am I? Because without such, these are just a monastic thing, but it's a useful tip. You build in what we call fire breaks. From the zip, hurry up, here's it, bow. Oh, I've got to go somewhere, bow. I've just arrived, bow. I've just seen so-and-so, bow. When you come to the new monastery, you visit someone, your friends are out there, you say, excuse me, I just got to go and pay my respects to the shrine first, rather than get involved with conversation. That's the understanding, They say, oh yeah, we'll take your bags and sit, and then you pay respects to the shrine, bow, and then we come and pay respects to you, and then we can get into our chit-chat, But first of all, that pausing, stop, pause, for everyone's welfare. It's not unfriendly, it's just moving to another frequency, another channel, and just stop. And then skillful speech. Skillful speech. Recognize that many of the unskillful actions of speech and habit arose because people didn't stop for 10 seconds. That's all it would have taken. You go to a prison, somebody, I stabbed him. Why did you stab him? I don't know, we were just heated and arguing, and then, I got really upset, and he threatened with his fist, so I had a knife and I stabbed him. Imagine if you threatened with your fist and you just stopped for 10 seconds. And you'd gone, just a moment. You'd have saved yourself 5 years in jail. Right? This, when we get excited or angry or upset or greedy, I saw something, I grabbed it. If you'd have stopped for 10 seconds, you wouldn't have said that, would you? If you'd have stopped for 10 seconds, you wouldn't have punched him, you wouldn't have driven the car like that, would you? 10 seconds was all it took, and you didn't take that, so now you got 5 years in jail because of 10 seconds. We should remember this. Yeah. Because we didn't take 10 seconds, we've got another 5 years in samsara. Building up more habits. Building up the walls, because we didn't stop for 10 seconds. So you think, I think I'll bow instead. That's okay, it may look silly, but I just get into the habit of stop. And then check, and then start, So these are things we cultivate, monastic. Lots of these little points, when you generally address someone, you put your hands in Anjali. It's very difficult to abuse someone with your hands in Anjali. Say, I think you're a complete idiot. It doesn't happen, You may not deeply respect them or love them, but if you just do that, it automatically seems to break, the mind state. It interrupts the mind state because the hands know. The hands are telling you something. They're saying, collect, compose your heart. And then you realize, whatever he is or isn't, this quality of speech about is not good. And the hands tell you that. And your body tells you that. And the here-ness, the being present, tells you that. Pause. So this is the way you break the spiral of habits. You lift, pay attention, you pause, you ask, where am I? What's important now? You have a choice. And the mind moving fast, you want to slow it, pause, so that choice, it could be just a small choice, but it's rather like if you choose to go 1 degree to the left, that 1 degree to the left is going to take you eventually, 100 kilometers that way if you keep going. 1 degree to the right, 100 kilometers that way in a year's time. 1 degree to the left, you're safe. 1 degree to the right, you're in jail for 5 years. Through that turning it 1 degree. I feel angry, I feel annoyed, I feel hatred. but I'm not holding the knife. I put it down, that 10 seconds. I let the emotion settle, feel my body, calm. What's important now? I have a way of pulling myself out of karma. You know? So I meet many people, I used to, met somebody been in the army, said it was so bad in the army, drink, a whole lot of whiskey in the evening just to deaden out. You wake up feeling so bad in the morning that he's got a bottle of vodka under the bed. So you wake up feeling so terrible in the morning, you drink a bottle of vodka to get over the hangover from the whiskey the night before. And he said, so he just had to say, don't reach under the bed. You feel bad, you feel terrible, just don't reach under the bed. Bear with it. Bear with it. And that's how you break. You have to bear with. Yeah. And you do that, and things pass. This is the way we develop. And you begin to say, when you meditate, what are the tendencies that strongly come up in your mind? Say the fears, the anxieties, or the worries, or the grudges, or the craving. You mark, this is anxiety, don't act upon it. Don't try to cure it, just don't act upon it. This is ill will, don't try to cure it, just don't act upon it. This is craving, don't try to stop it, just don't act upon it. And this is the system called starving. You withdraw food from these hindrances. And then every time you get those qualities arising, you say, well, let's go back to where I am, here. And then you work with the disturbance that occurs. This is the way you build strengths and parami. So they really, your life changes when you start to acknowledge this is definitely a habit. It doesn't go anywhere useful. That's the first acknowledgement. Second acknowledgement, I don't have to be this habit. This is a habit, it's not myself. I don't have to keep following it. Or at least that's the second training. Third training is to resist the habit. This is where it gets difficult, because this is where the pressure starts. Go on, everybody else does. It doesn't really matter. You can change it tomorrow. After all, why make a big thing out of this? This is uncomfortable. You don't want to keep doing this. This is where you're really meeting Mara. So when that starts happening, I'm on a good thing here. When that struggle starts happening, I've touched into something where the Mara is there, and he's getting worried. He's getting upset. Stay with it. This is the testing point when you meet the struggle. Having met the struggle, you stay. And you keep grounding yourself in presence, and you keep reflecting wisely, and the struggle is there. And you're breathing in and out, calming yourself, staying in there, and eventually Mara has to give up. It's called patience, patient endurance, and this is in suttas or in the chanting it says the Buddha repelled Mara through patience. This is the fundamental training in the Ajahn Chah's monasteries. It's patient endurance. You meet the struggle, you don't deny it's a struggle, you don't even try to change it, you just patiently bear with it till the force recedes, the stream dries up. It dries up because you're not putting any more water into it, and then the boat is on dry land. Your island gets bigger. So you make a refuge for yourself. At first the island may only be a tiny little point you can rest on. Just a little point. When you notice, then you start to work on it, on where the streams are strong, and gradually the island gets wider and bigger till you've got a big enough place to rest on. The island gets bigger until the stream dries up, then you're safe and the streams aren't going to blow you away. This is the way we train. Yeah. So in your daily life, as people very much in the worldly stream, just for your own welfare, I do recommend you train in terms of these stopping, pausing, asking yourself what is important, what should be put down, what should not be followed, what should be picked up, even though one feels sometimes lazy or unwilling, what is responsible to pick up, what is praised by the wise, pick it up, trust it, work with it, build your island. Build your island and gather your friends onto it. This is our duty as practitioners. So offer this for your reflection today.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We'll now open the floor for Q&A. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand. Thank you.
There's a woman here.
Good morning, Long Po, and thank you very much for your talk. Because most of the monks would be talking about Sila, Samadhi, Panya, and I do not know where I went wrong. So today, Long Po is talking about something else, and I realized there are some of the things that I went wrong. And Long Po, I just wonder, because I've been asking many monks and professors that what Buddha meant by Nibbana is the extinguishing of the oil and wick. Nibbana is the extinguishing of the oil and wick.
Oil and wick?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Is it referring to mind and matter?
To what?
Mind and matter.
No, well it could be. It could be used, it's a poetic metaphor, so it could be used for a number of things. But one could say the oil is the oil of craving, that which keeps the fire burning, feeds on craving, desire. The wick could be the accumulations of past karma, something that acts as a potential for craving to circulate around. Now you could say it's the mind is the oil and the body is the wick, or the materiality is the wick, the sense fields are the wick. That is, the sense fields naturally are something which attracts craving and feeds on craving. So these are various ways you can use that metaphor. The main thing is to know how to do it. It's nice to have these models, but then how to do that, how to bring that around, how to withdraw the oil first of all, or to not add to it. There's a choice. One, it's possible. It's a choice. This is actually what we may not realize is that every moment we're either adding more or not. So if you don't keep adding more, it tends to dry up. Could be, yeah. Energy goes with everything. It's those with all experience that we have as consciousness as energy associated with energetic changes and movements. So these could be the sense of disease, discomfort. Could be just that something in your energetic system isn't settled. Yeah, and there may be a physical reason for that, or a psychological reason for that, or it could just be something that's to do with the energetic system. So the emotions and the body will always signal. They give signals which are energetic. That's their way of speaking. So they may feel uncomfortable or diseased, and you just feel unsettled and not clear and not strong. It could be just, take some medicine, you'll be better. Or it could be anything. It could be ghosts in your room. It could be a memory of something you didn't do that's still nagging in the back of your mind. But where all that comes down to, the signal itself is energetic. The fence is not quite settled, something wrong. So if we settle the energy, just stabilize, it may be doing that you can recognize, I know what it is. I have this memory, it becomes clearer. That's why I don't feel settled. Lady at the back there.
You can ask the question from where you are. Yes.
You've already acted upon it. I've got this something outside is making some noise, so I'm only getting you 40%. Habitual tendencies. How do you know whether you've acted on it or not? Well, yeah. There's always a kind of pressure. Habitual tendencies have a certain pressure to them. The pressure could be obligation. They want me to. I have to. My father wants me to. So in that obligation and the pressure, we often attribute the pressure to somebody else. It's they or the community or my husband or my children or even just it. It must be done this way. So that's never actually true. It may be that other people do say, I want this to happen, I like this to happen, but still eventually the only one who pushes the action button is here. So habitual tendencies will often not give you the moment to choose and to know clearly you're taking responsibility for what you're doing. It's just, it's supposed to be done this way, or everybody does this way, or it's Monday, we do it like this. I don't see any Monday. Where's the Monday? When you go into Chitta, there's no Monday. There's no people in there. So the signals of time, place, other people, the signal touches here. That's the perception. And the perception, they, her, it, ought to, I have to, even myself. I always do it like this. That's what I do. I'm like that. Who's that? That's a perception. So, by and large, the habit works in a perception immediately causes a reaction. The perception arises, we act. And the perception arises, he, them, the future, the past, the time, the number on the clock, the day of the week, what I did yesterday, it arises and we act. And there's no pause between the two. There's no moment of checking. Yeah, they say it's Monday. What's really happening now? Yeah, this is good or not good. So when there's proper attention, we have a pause, even just a barely, or at least an acknowledgement of the perception and then the action. They're not the same thing. Now in habitual responses, as soon as the perception arises, the action is immediate. A friend of mine trained as an airplane pilot, and you go into a control room. It simulates being. It's a flight simulator, and you sit there with the control panel, and then there's a signal. The engine has broken down. You see, so then what do you do? And they say if you act immediately, they don't give you the job. The person, they say you pause in at least 2 or 3 seconds and then you act. That's the correct way of procedure. Because if you act immediately, the likelihood is you're not fully aware. You haven't, all your mental and psychological resources are not available at the moment. They're available 2 seconds later. But right now, the first thing to do is pause. Check. Because maybe it's the wrong signal. Maybe that it's nothing wrong with the engine, it's just that the control panel is broken. Or a number of things, but they build in that training where you must pause, check things out, and also calm. Don't panic, so that you act. Okay, it's not going to make that much difference. So just pause, check. Right, now what do we do? Yeah. So this is something. The perception is a signal. Then there's a signal, there's an action. Now our training is to know the difference between the perception, that's the impression, and the action. And if we're not clear about that, then there's a loss of full awareness. The factor is not so much mindfulness, but sampajano, clear comprehension, full knowing. So if you have already acted, done something, then remember that's the time when still, how is this going? Because you're always in moving experience. Now, how is this? And perhaps it's time to pause now, check now. You can't go back to the past, but if you're in an action, then you still, you still get aware of it. And as soon as you're aware of it, the quality of awareness itself and attention itself, that automatically, the more you give full attention to what you're doing, then the quality of wisdom and careful attention is bound to grow, and you can adjust it.
May I ask a follow-up? Because when you say we act upon it, it includes the mental action.
Oh yeah.
So for most of us, okay, for myself, they tend not to be able to catch the perception and the mental action that we do. So most of the time, the mental action will happen.
Uh-huh.
So how do you...
How do you... the action is always mental. The only significant action is mental. Sometimes we don't even see it because we've already acted upon it, but the only action, the source of karma, is always mental, psychological. So, how do you get to see it? Well, so the fundamental themes are restraint, sense restraint, restraint of the indriyas, which is not just the sight, sound, but also restraint of indriyas such as effort, action, restrain it, restrain the energies that rush into things, you learn to restrain them. You might build in recollections such as daily recollection on death, or even several times a day. So if you're going to die in the next minute or the next hour or the next evening, what are you doing now? Because we have a background perception of, I'm living in this city, I go to work, my house, this is my friends, my dog. This all lives, as a background sense of that's where I am. And it's all just, it's a dream. Like you could go, I'm in Singapore, I'm going to work, and then suddenly, bang, you have a stroke. Where are you now? Where are you now? It can go like that. So our minds have the capacity to form a virtual reality of time, tomorrow, 5 years, and space. There's a house over there, I'm going to work over there, there's someone going to look over there. That's all real. And I'm moving around in that. That's a virtual reality. Just like those, you can do these virtual reality things where you put something on, you look into a screen and you're in there. And then they pull the power, where's it gone? yeah. So our minds have the capacity to do that, and we live in a perceptual world of people who are not here, and possibilities that may happen, and visual phenomena. So again, the constant recollection, or you're coming back to, and this could be something you do regularly. What's really here? Now, does that make any sense? What is it that perceives? Where do these impressions land of time and space and self and other? Where do they land? Who is experiencing them? So it's just this pulling back. And that's the perception. The perception. Where does all this occur? What is conscious of this? Once you do that, then there's this quality of here. This is a perception. And you feel the pull. This takes a lot. Another exercise you can do is a meditative exercise. You sit for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just widen your visual field till you can see everything, say, between your outstretched hands. So you can just be aware of this hand and that hand, And you keep focusing without looking at them, so you're widening your visual field to that wide. So you can just see that it's most important to get those two hands at the periphery. And so you do that, and then what's in front begins to fade, become less clear. And that all that is the visual field. It's all that. It's this big. And when I hold it as it actually is, the visual field, all the items within it become very dreamlike. Yeah? Yeah. Now, in order to make those solid, I have to focus down on her bag or his arm or your face, and there you are, But that's very much an action that does that. Now, if we go to that, that's true, and all that which can generate action becomes quiet. It's not generating action. So action is born of two qualities: attention, which sharpens the focus, and contact, that strikes me, and then action. Now, if you have a very wide field, attention is not doing that, is not focusing. Contact, very subdued. And yet you're still here. But the world has not exactly disappeared, but become very vague. And you can just doing that. And if you do that with your eyes, more difficult, but definitely more fruitful is to do it with your mind. Widen your mind, and there's thoughts, impressions, emotions, feelings, sensations coming in, and just sustain awareness of all of it without any action. Sustain awareness of all of it without any action. As soon as you feel the action, you can feel it as a kind of grip. Yeah? Oh, I've got to remember, I've got to do that. Let go. Just give yourself, set the alarm, 5 minutes, that's all, just 5 minutes. Oh, I just remembered I've got to, stop. The alarm hasn't gone. I've got this pain in my leg, stop. The alarm hasn't gone. I better write that down, stop. The alarm hasn't gone. And you can feel all these perceptions keep running in. Things you've got to do, things you've forgotten to do, things you need to do, things, but stop. You're all right. You've just given yourself 5 minutes. That's all. And you feel this pulling. And you see, the problem is not the perceptions in themselves, but the pull. The way the mind automatically grabbed, and then action immediately. And what we want to do is to make the action more clearly chosen, rather than blindly thrown into. For this we have to acknowledge this sense of, needing to close the door. That's a perception now. This remembering I should phone my cousin, that's a perception now. And so, well, I can, I'm not going to. Not that I'm never going to do it, but for 5 minutes I won't do anything. And you try doing that. 5 minutes, it's not that much, and you really see the perceptual thing keeps coming back, because the citta doesn't see anything, doesn't hear anything, doesn't taste anything. It only has perception, which are these virtual realities, these felt impressions, these signals. That's all it experiences, just the signals. And there's no substance to them at all. There's no substance to them. They're just signals. They're just like an electric shock you jump on. But they've got nothing in them. Now, as long as you act upon them, they do have something in them. What they have in them is your energy. You just gave them reality. It's called leaking, asava. Your precious energy runs out into this compulsive action. You feed the actions with your energy, with your life force. You're feeding your compulsions with your own life. You're feeding compulsions that drag you down, and you're doing it with your own life force. It's like you're putting a lot of effort into building your own prison. If you look at it very stark terms, and it's not saying anything other than just stop doing it. It's not saying make yourself miserable. It just means don't keep doing things you're not even aware you're doing. If you want to do it, pause, check. Skillful, unskillful, how do I feel about that? Is this my duty, my responsibility, something I feel, this is what I want to be with? Go ahead. But if it's just that, I suppose to, I got to, it's time to, I must, I ought to, I never, stop. Because this is this uncertain, careless action. Heedfulness is the path to death. And often our heedfulness is not grossly immoral. Or if it was gross, we wouldn't do it. It's often not gross at all. It's just subtle, casual, fairly innocuous, but we're not clear about it. And so if it was easy, if it was crude, we'd see it. It's like dust. Like if you stay in this room over a period of time, it will gradually get dirtier. Dust will accumulate, but you won't notice it. If somebody came and threw mud on the wall, you'd notice it. But if it's just a fine film of dust, you don't notice it. It builds up, and it builds up, and it builds up, and after a year, it's really dirty. And you think, how did that happen? It didn't happen in an hour. It gradually built up. And that's like the heart. It's not that bad, but gradually through inattention, these films, this dust starts layering over it. And so you let that happen, and like 2 or 3 years, that's become solid. And it just started as fine dust. And after 2 or 3 years, it's become solid wall. And you didn't see it. So it's very, very helpful just to remember that. Simple pausing, check, and do deliberate exercises that hold you back while the perceptions, the mental information starts running. And you say, this is just the mind. This is the body, this is here, this is happening to it. It's a very simple reference point. Yeah.
Question which is almost the opposite. What if, how do you deal with procrastination?
Let me think about that. I'll tell you tomorrow. Huh?
Procrastination through overcomplicating.
Yeah.
Resisting certain duties because of not necessarily emotional, but maybe
Well, there are various. I know someone he realizes he's a procrastinator. When he does things that are exceptionally refined, high standard. When he does something, it's really good. But the problem is he has a certain anxiety about action. It's got to be absolutely right before he can do it. So he's always, well, maybe then, no, I don't know, it could be, then so it's maybe,
That's kind of the core of it.
Huh?
Yes, I'd say that's
Yeah, it's like as if the sense is, so where other people just go, well, I'll fumble around, and see how it goes. And I can do that. I can kind of fumble around and guess at it. But some people can't. They just feel very unsettled at things that are kind of guesswork and a bit foggy. And so that means that sometimes we search for a very clear, very collected, very precise strategy, and then we'll act. And those aren't always available. So then one sort of dithers in this maybe, maybe not, and it's very uncomfortable. Yeah. So that can be there. A certain, I guess it's like a kind of lack of confidence in a way, a lack of confidence in being. And just to bear in mind, being is absolutely true. Doing is always guesswork. And guesswork means it might not work. How is that for you? Well, maybe in tomorrow I could feel better about it. So that could be a cause for procrastination. It could also be that there are something important that one should do, one is not aware of. So we can't get going on what we think we're supposed to be doing, and we don't realize there's something else that we should be addressing. That the citta cannot act because it's still something else is unsettled. Could be doubt, for example, or regret, things that we're not even aware of, perhaps fully aware of, but the citta doesn't feel assured enough to act. There can be a sense, particularly as we would tend to act in a world of other people. I know this can be the case, whereby, well, will he like it? Will they like it? Will it be okay? How will this affect them? Will I be all right? Well, and then that becomes a problem, because you never know. And for sure, as far as I can recognize, anything you do, somebody won't like it. And probably somebody will, and probably some other people won't even notice. But the idea that everyone's going to think, oh, great, then no, it's not going to happen. But one can again have that sense of, well, I'm not certain what the results will be for, how this will go down with other people. One's uncertain about that. So really, with procrastination, you're going to come back to just really exploring where you are in your own heart, and maybe right now it's not the right time to act because you think you're not really that interested. But then if it is a time to feel, well, then you might say, what's called the four bases for full awareness are purpose. One has a sense of there's a purpose here. One recognizes a sense of non-delusion. I'm acting with the mind of goodwill or clarity, or at least the way that it will develop more patience or more skill. There's a sense of non-delusion, clarity, and whatever I will do, it will be, in some ways, it won't be complete. So these two, and awareness, full awareness of the meaning, appropriate quality, and also full awareness of staying in touch. Or gochara means resort, means I'm in touch with my body, my mind, my attitudes, so that I'm not doing things half. I do things fully. What I do fully. And so you then really recognizing the most important thing is not exactly what you do, it's how you do it. And if how you do it means, well, I can stand up and take a breath clearly, okay, that was okay. And then I can sit down and wait, and bring the topic up into my mind. What I feel I should be doing comes into my mind. I can acknowledge a sense of agitation around that. I can put it down. I can bring it up. I can try to stay clear about that and notice my intentions and begin to clarify what's meaningful, what's important now. And then are you really there with it? And can you bring your energies up to that? If you can't bring your energy up to it, if you can't activate upon that, what actually is the problem? What's holding you back? Somebody else could do it. Don't know if it's right. Feel a bit awkward. Not certain whether I'll be able to do it right. Lack of confidence. Those have to be dealt with in the heart, not in the action. Yeah, certainly in our training we often get given tasks to do that we're not certain about doing. And I remember asking one of the senior monks, well, how senior should you be before you take on being an abbot? When are you ready? He says, you're never ready. Nobody's ever ready. You just do it, make all the mistakes and keep going, So there's no... so I was, I had to take on that when I was five years. After 5 years, and then going to teach retreat, I didn't know what I was doing. So you just sit and and relax the nervousness. Feel a sense of goodwill for other people. Goodwill, relax the nervousness. Just feel a sense of goodwill. Recognize people experience stress and suffering. You experience stress and suffering. And out of friendliness, start talking about how you deal with it. And there you go. You start right here. Bring up the mind of goodwill. Get a sense of other people are worth sharing with. Just let it go and see what comes up. And the idea it's going to be perfect or what everybody wants is just a fantasy. Just do it. Yeah.
We were talking about practicing Qigong on the way here. Is it safe for children?
Oh yeah.
Is he like Star Wars?
Sorry?
He like Star Wars. I told him that she is like the Force.
That's right, it is a force. You could save the universe with that. Your children can do it. Okay, I think that's probably it for today, yeah?
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.